Hey, what are we doing with that graphic up there? Let's get that graphic off the screen and say, hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the DJ Sessions presents the virtual sessions, where we are a live streaming interview show that features DJs, producers, and electronic musicians and industry professionals from around the world. I'm your host, Darren, and right now I'm sitting in the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington, and my guest coming in all the way from Austin, Texas. We got Kaspar Tasane. I hope I said that right.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like you're chilling in your studio there. I'm sure it's nice and air conditioned down there. It's nice and air conditioned here. We've kind of had a little bit of a heat wave going on, but Kaspar, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the electronic music industry.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's see. So, yeah, I am originally from Estonia, Tallinn, Estonia. I'm currently living in Austin, Texas. How did they get started? Let's see. Well, I think I kind of grew up with electronic music. I don't really remember like one point where I was like, all right, that's it, because growing up in Europe, back when MTV was still playing music videos, we also
Yeah.
had, dance music on MTV. So, and it was coming on, it was on the radio as well and stuff. So I was kind of surrounded by it. And I guess people were going clubbing. My parents had, like CDs and cassettes or whatever with dance music. So I was kind of surrounded by it. But I guess the point like where I became part of the industry, so to say, was maybe like in 2000 when I had my first gig. So yeah, to answer your question.
Did you start out as a obviously it sounds like you started out as a fan, getting your origin story. Did you start out as a DJ or producer first? Or was it both synonymous?
um I would say it was more I kind of started off as a DJ first, I guess, because by that time I had like a pretty decent collection of vinyl. So I met some older guys who were DJing, and they kind of said like, "All right, you want to play? You want to warm up for us?" And I kind of started playing at some private parties and some clubs as well. Back in the day, it was a lot easier to play in the clubs, even if you were underage. Estonia had regained independence from the Soviet Union like in 1991, basically. So it was kind of like a wild east back then. So it was, uh, yeah, there were like less regulations and stuff. So that's when I started playing. Yeah, but I also kind of started. I got like FL Studio 3.5 or whatever was out around that time. So I kind of started playing around with that and producing my own tracks. I mean, they're really crappy, but yeah, I was mainly focusing on DJing back then.
Did, did, do you come from a musical family, or was this something that you kind of just fell into? When I say musical family, I mean, were they musicians themselves in any way, shape, or form, or just
No, not
just
really.
this? Not
Yeah.
really. Um, it's very interesting to see the journey of, you hear a lot of people say it's I'm not trying to placate it, but it's very easy to become a DJ nowadays as opposed to maybe back in the day when it was vinyl. And, the electronic, obviously as technology has progressed, you know, it's like if somebody pressed 10,000 copies of a vinyl record and that went out to the entire world, those are the only versions that existed.
Mhm.
And you couldn't say, oh, well, I'm going to go press my own. I'm going to take this and download it here and go buy it here. But now that people can get access to so much more music, it's so much easier to build that library. You have people going out, and now you'll have 100,000 DJs, which are all downloading the same track.
Mhm.
You know, and
Yeah.
in your opinion, do you think that electronic music has become too commercial or too easy to kind of get into now, as opposed to back in the day when you first started?
Um, I don't know. I guess back in the day, you really had to have a lot of like, investment money, so to say, to like invest in hardware and stuff. And because most of the music was made on hardware back in the day, so you really had to be serious in that way. Um, but I think nowadays, yes, it's easier to make music or to get started. But I think like yes, there is more music out there, but I think percentually, like if you look at the percentages of how much good music there is out there, I think the percentages are the same. It's just harder to find good music. So I don't really view it as a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this DJ show thing for almost 13 years and been going out to nightclubs and dancing for 30 plus years. I never have gotten the bug, even though I own tons of DJ gear for my show. I've never learned how to DJ it. Everyone says, Darren, you be really good at it. I think you could be really good at it. But I'm like, well, let me just throw that on top of executive producing a multinational show where I'm doing 12 to 14 interviews a week and live streaming and then doing our events every weekend and running an operation down in Arizona as well as Seattle. I think I'll let everyone else just DJ and I'll sit back and I'll do my video stuff. I like doing the video stuff of that.
Mhm.
What would be the biggest break that you think to you? What would be the biggest break that launched your DJ career?
I think there's been many really. I think my first big break was in 2003, where I got my own radio show on an FM station in Tallinn, Estonia, on Energy FM that I did with my friend DTV. And that show became one of the most popular show in Tallinn for a while on Friday nights, and that like really opened a lot of doors for us. We played at pretty much all of the clubs in the country, like in different cities and festivals and stuff. And that was like my first big break. And then later on, just signing records and being supported by big name DJs who I used to really like look up to. I still do, and I think there's just kind of like a continual process.
Well, what would you consider the most inspiring moment as in your musical career? There was a moment of inspiration that kind of clicked and said, "This is why I want to do this." I know what one of mine is. When I started doing I went off on my own and said the people that I was working for, I'm going to go off and do my own thing. That was my kind of inspiration. I'll go do my own thing. And anything like that was an inspiring moment or words of wisdom or anything that anyone's given you that you can just really that you really hold on to.
Mm-hmm. I think the first time I heard Tiesto's Magic Six back in like 2000, and before that, like I, I mean, obviously I listened to trance a little bit, but that was like the first time I was like, wow, this music is really really powerful. Like it has energy and it kind of like takes you on a trip, and I just felt like, man, I want to like play out more. And after that, I kind of discovered a lot of other DJs like Oakenfold and Sasha and Digweed, and uh, yeah, it's just kind of like I think that was a defining moment for me. Yeah.
It was 1999, and the first electronic music CD that I ever bought was Paul Oakenfold's Global Underground 007 album.
Mhm.
And I would put that on every night before I went out. And I fell so in love with that Global Underground one that I went and I remember I owned the Sasha one, which is just phenomenal. I got the Tangelia, Danny Tangelia. I hope I said that right. I always get that wrong. I think I got a John Digweed one. I had like a few of that collection, that Global Underground collection. That really was kind of a defining moment for me of listening to electronic music at home. And we had our local radio station, C89, that would play electronic music, and they play like the bubblegum pop stuff during the day. It's still on the air, one of the longest running electronic dance music stations in the world.
Mhm.
They play the bubblegum stuff during the day, and then at night, the DJs would actually be able to come on and play the underground stuff, the stuff you weren't hearing. Because at that time, at least in Seattle, electronic music was not really at the forefront. There was a lot of hip hop, and even coming out of the 90s in Seattle, it was a lot of grunge. We had a lot of bars that had bands playing in them. And you had hip hop shows, but electronic music was really kind of this underground thing that wasn't mainstream yet.
Mhm.
And just seeing the rise of that happen from the age of 18, going all the way back to 1992, it was really a kind of underground. I actually hung out at a club called the Underground. So it was just seeing the rise of it go from underground to becoming a mainstream or pop culture has been interesting. But those names you mentioned, I think Paul Oakenfold was one of the first celebrity DJs I ever had on my broadcast television series, ITV. And I couldn't believe I was sitting there and interviewing Paul, really nice guy, really soft spoken, and was sitting on the couch with him and kind of just totally killed the interview. It was a great interview. Unfortunately, there were some technical difficulties that I didn't get to. The audio got botched because I had bought a bunch of brand new gear and didn't hook it up the right way. But that being said, it was like still an honor to be sitting there and talking with Paul and the influence that those names that I've mentioned and some of the names that you have mentioned in your bio, like Kenneth Thomas, obviously protege of Paul, Sandra Collins, Nicholas Rada, Chris Fortier. I hope to pronounce that right. But even, Armin, these are legendary names that you've kind of worked with. Oh, Matt Derry. I've actually had Matt on the show before. Really cool guy too. But if you could pick a favorite DJ of yours, who would that be? And tell us why.
I think it would have to be Hernan Catania, really. It's just, amazing like track selection and like just very inspiring how he's been doing his thing for decades, and just the way he mixes things and kind of tells a story. I kind of started off as a trance DJ more so, or progressive trance, or whatever you want to call it. Uh, this was like kind of the main elements of why I liked the music, was because it was like able to take you on a journey, and I think he's one of the DJs out there who still kind of has that philosophy. And yeah, I've seen him live a few times. He played some of my tracks, so yeah, definitely, it's got to be him.
That's always again, if I was a producer and if somebody that I admired and revered played my tracks during one of their sets or during one of their radio shows, I would feel extremely honored to have
Mhm.
something like that happen. Um, and I was speaking a little bit just a few moments ago about starting out in '92, back when kind of clubs were underground and not really the mainstream. Do you think that people should look at the DJs like they're rock stars as they are nowadays? The big festivals of being up there and 50, 60,
Mhm.
100, 250,000 people, or would it be
Mhm.
more fun if DJs went back to becoming more slightly anonymous at
Mhm.
events? It kind of because when I grew up, you kind of had the DJ over in the corner and you dance on the dance floor. You didn't
Mhm.
really see the DJ booth. There was a DJ booth, but it wasn't such a prominent stage presence until you started seeing the raves coming out, and then the production of the raves, and lights and the dancers and the whole showmanship of the whole production. Do you think which do you prefer? Do you think they should be treated like rock stars, or should they be more, like I said, anonymous?
Um, I think, like, honestly, personally, I wouldn't want to be treated like a rock star. I'm just someone who likes or loves what he's doing, and I do my thing. And I take out the trash like every other person. So my personal opinion is no, but people love the image, so to say. They love the story behind someone. So I get it. So I don't have like a solid opinion on it. I would say no.
Do you do you prefer more intimate clubs or big festivals?
I think intimate clubs definitely. Yeah, just a couple hundred people. I think you have a more of an intimate connection. You can kind of control the room more. Whereas at the festival, there's uh, so many different variables, and you most likely have to play bangers, depending on the time of year. So, yeah, they're fun sometimes, but I think if I were, given a choice, I would do clubs definitely.
And you also do a series, an online podcast radio series. Sometimes a lot of people call it different things. There's live streaming, there's podcasting, there's internet radio, but
Yeah.
you have a show called Rogue Transmission. Tell us about Rogue Transmission and what was your inspiration to start doing that series?
Mhm. Yeah, so I was actually someone reached out to me a little over a year ago, and they started a radio station. They got some really good names on the radio station, and they asked me if I wanted to do a show. So I said yes, and I started releasing episodes every month there. But unfortunately, something came up in his personal life, so he stopped the radio station. So we transferred over to 21C, ran by James Dillis, who's also part of my kind of promotional agency, and he was very kind to take over the management of the show for me. So I've been, releasing episodes. I would say bi-monthly now, and the concept is very kind of simple. I go through hundreds, if not thousands, of tracks, and I select the ones that I really feel that speak to me, and I try to make an hour mix and put it into kind of like a story format so that it can take people on a journey.
And if you could say, what would be one of the hottest or one track that stands out in your mind that you've listened to in, let's say, the last month that said, I got to get this into every set? And what's the current hottest track on your memory stick? If you use memory sticks, I'm not sure. Do you DJ vinyl? Are you vinyl? I'm sure you use memory sticks. Everyone uses memory sticks nowadays.
Yeah, it's memory sticks for me right now. But yeah, it's going to be I think, yeah, the Diego R remix of Sueños. And unfortunately, I don't remember the artist's name. It's just kind of, I totally blanked, but look it up. But yeah, I definitely want to play that out in every set. Every once in a while, you just hear a track that, and for me, those tracks are not necessarily like huge tracks. It's just they're tracks that really like speak to me for whatever reason, kind of bring out some nostalgia or something, and really make me feel like this is why I'm doing it.
And speaking of releases, you just had a release not too long ago, Connect the Dots. Tell us about that track. What is Connect the Dots?
Yeah, so that was released on Deep Wipe. So it's actually an Estonian label. They've been doing really well, and they reached out to me and asked me if I had any material that I could release on their label. And it was one of those tracks that was already played by some DJs, but I never really um, I don't know, decided to release it, I guess. But it was one of the tracks that I sent to them, and they really liked it, and they signed it, and yeah, it's out there.
Nice. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And we were talking a little bit before the show that you actually have some releases coming out later this year, correct?
Yeah.
Are there any anticipated release dates or any secrets you can give away about them or any hints or drops or anything?
Yeah, so I have a remix coming out on Noel Sanger's label Dissident Music later this month, at the end of this month. I think it may be the 25th of August. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. I've been a big fan of Noel since I first saw him live in 2003 in Portland, actually. So I lived in Portland, not too far away from you.
Not too far.
But yeah, ever since he launched Dissident in 2007, I've been a big fan, and it's it's got to be my first release on the label. So I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Nice. Do you have any secret aliases under which you release music?
It's just my name. Yeah. Just Kaspar Tasane or Kaspar Tasane.
And how often,
Yeah.
how many tracks do you produce a month, and how many actually end up getting released?
I produce a lot of music actually. I usually, I can lay a track down sometimes in a day or in a couple of days, but what I usually do is I have this process where I make tracks, like I make a bunch of tracks in a couple of weeks, and then I just kind of listen to them later. And I feel like it'll help you maintain your kind of objectivity. So you listen to your tracks you've totally forgotten about, and you just kind of pick out the ones that you like, that you think have potential, or that represent your sound at this moment. And then I just usually, kind of tweak those tracks. And I usually have like 4 or 5 tracks at a time that I'm working on. So I work on one track for 1 day or 2 days if I'm really pumped about it. And I switch to another track if I feel like, I'm starting to lose my objectivity. And I end up, I don't release all of them. Maybe I'll release half of them, you know?
How much of a perfectionist are you?
I think that if a track is 99% done, it's done. I used to think it was 100%, but if your goal is 100%, you can spend months on a track. And it's just, art is always going to be imperfect. There's always something that you can tweak on. If I make a track and it sounds good in my set, like the balances of all the frequencies and things, if they sound good and it works, I think it's done.
Mm-hmm. Gonna take a viewer question right now.
Mhm.
If you could give one production tip insight to new producers out there, what would that be? And thank you, Narco PI. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, good question. I think just make tons of music, and don't get hung up on one track. You know, uh, if you make 10 tracks a month, that's better than if you make one track in 10 months. You will learn so much more about the whole process. Sound selection or sample selection, sound design, writing melodies, doing a mix down. It's just you just develop faster and you'll have more fun.
And I see behind you, you have some speakers there behind you. What monitors do you have there in your studio?
Those are Yamahas.
Those are the Yamahas? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely use all Mackie gear here, obviously. I saw the green design of your studio. Is that actual sound dampening with the LED
Yeah.
around it behind you? That's pretty
Yeah.
sick.
And one of my friends actually makes them kind of as a side gig. So if anyone's interested, please hit me up.
Kind of a question from V
Mhm.
Curly right now. And which way did you set up your recording studio? Do you have any pictures? Well, you're looking at the recording studio right now.
Which way I set it up?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if are you able to move your camera around and give us a little tour?
Oh, yeah. So this is actually pretty much everything that you
Oh, okay.
see. So I have my DDJ 200 there that I use for DJing,
Yeah.
and Corsair keyboard and FL keys. So super minimalistic. Nothing fancy. I'm definitely a gear minimalist.
What brand of headsets do you trust, and is there a specific model you really like?
I think Sennheisers are really good. And back in the day, I used to also use Techniques. Uh, I am not even sure if they are making any DJ headphones anymore. I'm so out of touch with it, to be honest with you. But yeah,
No, I think my first pair of headsets I got were the good old 7506s, the Sonys. That was kind of like an industry standard. You're a DJ, you get the
silver one.
7506s. Yeah.
Yep, I
And
had
then,
those. I had 3 pairs of those. I went
yeah,
through
it
three
was
pairs in 2 years.
yeah, it was a few years ago. I bought a pair of Sennheiser. I think they were the H25s.
Mhm.
Really, they were $200, but they were open box. and I think the only thing that was missing was the plug for it. So I picked them up for like $1.25 or something. But I could be in the middle of the nightclub in front of the stage with those on, and I could hear everything perfectly. I actually didn't even need to wear earplugs in the club. I just had my headsets on in the club because I'd be doing
Nice.
live streaming from the clubs, and just love those Sennheisers. Uh, and yeah, it's I know a lot of people talk about the
B modas, yeah, I've heard
V
about them.
motos. Those are
Mhm.
pretty awesome and stuff now. But
Very
if
cool.
you could steal one item from Dead Mouse's studio, what would that be?
I don't know, something expensive. I'll just sell it and I'll buy software. Yeah,
And
I
what,
always do modular synth though. I think they look cool. I may purchase one in the future. But,
and
so
you mentioned that you're using FL right now, right?
yep.
Gosh, and that takes me back. I remember playing with Fruity Loops 3 back in 2000.
Sounds about right. Yep.
Had it loaded on a compact Armada laptop. I think the laptop itself was. I mean, laptops were not. They were they were expensive back then. Like to have a full Windows running laptop, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I always loved playing with sequencers and stuff. Later on, I found myself working for Apple, and I became a trainer for Apple, so I could train people on how to train people to use their high end software, and that's what introduced me to Logic for the first time.
Wow, nice.
And just loved playing with the back end of Logic. But precursor to that, I actually used to own a MC505 and a SP808 Roland hardware. And I was, like I said, I was just dabbling in music. It was more like, these are fun toys. I sat in Guitar Center, I think, for about a year, playing with them, reading the manual. That's kind of my thing to do. And then I got the money and bought them and kind of had that hardware gear experience. And I grew up in kind of a musical family. My brothers were musicians, they were in bands. And my dad bought a lot of gear for them: 8-track, 4-track, keyboards, rack and synths, all this stuff. And they didn't really know how to use it.
Hmm.
I was the little kid at 8 years old being in the bedroom playing with their stuff and get my ass kicked usually because they're like, get out of our bedroom. You know, and I'm like, but check this out. I did something really cool. And they're like, how'd you do that? Now get out of my bedroom. you know, so I has a kind of a background playing. I preferred the hardware interface, but now looking at what software can do,
Hmm.
it's pretty awesome. And actually, Jay Breved just asked a really great question. I'm going to bring it up here.
Hmm.
That producing dance music sounds synonymous to spending countless hours behind the computer screen sculpting beats. What do you do in your free time to stay fit?
Um, I try to work out like like every day for like 30 minutes. Um, that's one thing. And yeah, I'm into healthy lifestyles for sure. I mean, um, intermittent fasting is really good. It kind of keeps you focused. If you have to do work that requires focus, like producing music, definitely. Um, two things, and yeah, I like to meditate as well. Uh, Usually every evening, kind of keeps you centered as well. Keeps the vibes positive.
What would
Free-
be? Oh, go ahead.
no, that's all I was gonna say.
I was going to say, what is your worst habit, and are you planning to get rid of it?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess checking social media too often. Um, I've I've tried to delete Facebook and Instagram off my phone successfully, up until the point where I have a new release and I have to promote it, or something. So I just kind of like install it back on my phone and like check it every 5 minutes or so. But yeah, that's definitely one thing.
I mean, you've been in this game for a while, and obviously we're in it pre-social media. Um, and I saw something the other day. I bring this up quite frequently, at least once or twice a week in interviews, when asking the social media question, how important social media is to an artist nowadays. We'll
Mhm.
cover that in just a second, but I saw this. It was a TikTok that an artist made, female artist made, a month ago now, and she was TikToking about the fact that her label wanted her to go out and do something controversial or something that would just blow up on TikTok and get downloads and get views to help promote her new track or album.
Mm-hmm.
And her TikTok was completely anti that, going, no, that's not my job. You don't tell, I don't make viral videos for this. You're supposed to be pushing and marketing my label. Of course, the artist should be doing some promo.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they were directing, it'd be like me coming to my resident DJs and saying, hey, go do something real wild and crazy and say, I'm on the DJ sessions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's I'm the executive producer. I should be handling some of the marketing. They should be doing some social media and letting people know that they're going live and they're going to be playing. And here's the show that I was just on. Yes, that's standard. But being asked as like the DJ session to ask somebody to go above and beyond, it was just interesting, and it brought me to this pie chart, this two pie charts sit next to each other, and one was it had before social media and now after social media, and it had this breakdown of what artists would spend their time doing. And in the beforehand one, marketing and promo was like 20% of the pie chart.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, after social media, all that was 80% of the pie chart. And music productions, performance, all that stuff was the 20% slice. And just that shift of people, like you said, it can become an addiction. And you want to check it because you also do want to reach out to your fans and that's called, the social engagement part of it. And fans love it when, like, oh my gosh, so and so talked to me, or I totally posted this, and they hearted it back. And I see that happen all the time. But it's kind of that double-edged sword. That how do you manage it? I'm right now having to set up for 18 people and manage our whole social media for our brand, and get that all dialed in to help make the process move a lot smoother or easier for them. So it almost becomes effortless on their part. I got to give a shout out to Hello Wolfie, although they're not one of our sponsors. They're one of the greatest social media tools I have found out there. Hello Wolfie, write it down, check it out. It can definitely help a lot of stuff there. But yeah, I am constantly always on the socials myself as well. The one thing you don't want to do is have a fan say something or ask a question, and then they're just left hanging. You kind of feel bad. Like, come back a couple days later and you're like, oh, well, thank you. I posted 15 other things, but I never said hi to you or thank you on the post. It's like, what's going on there? So, when it comes to looking at outreach, this next question, I'm trying to get this worded right, is if you were to take who are the top 5 labels that you would go to right now to find tracks, and how are you set up to be notified about their releases?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So I use Beatport, so I follow like over 100 labels, definitely maybe 150 or something. I haven't checked, and then also about the same amount of artists. So I basically, when I go to Beatport, I'll go to my Beatport, so see like all the labels and artists that I follow. But as far as like top 5 labels go, I think Suit Beat, Hernan's label, basically. Meanwhile is really good at lately. That's GMJ's label out of Australia. 1.62, where I've released stuff as well, is great. Also, One of a Kind. I think it's a label out of Serbia. It's a smaller label, but they just keep putting stuff out that I just keep playing all the time. And Juicebox Music. Think it's an Indian. I think it's Indian label. Maybe Sri Lankan. I may be mistaken there. Also, great stuff on that label. Think I lost the voice here.
No, you didn't. I had my mute button on because I live on one of the busiest streets in downtown Seattle. Like, I live on a penthouse unit that would be the equivalent of living in Times Square, but only in downtown Seattle, right? In the major thoroughfare. And so what happens is the fire engines and police like to use 3rd Avenue to go up and down through the city because it's both ways they can navigate around. Because First Avenue is kind of a cluster cluster F. Second Avenue's one way, Third Avenue's both ways, Fourth Avenue's one way north, Fifth Avenue's one way south. So trying to get through those streets and navigate through, they use Third Avenue. So when anything goes crazy, like I got car alarms, I got fire engines, ambulances, everything goes down. So I'll put my mic
Yeah.
on mute so it doesn't get in the background of the show. But that's why we do a live show. So it's all good. I was asking a question is tell us about Pro-B Tech Management.
Mhm. It's a bunch of awesome people together. You know, everyone has been in the business for at least as long as I have, probably like 5 or 10 years longer. You know, everyone kind of has the same values, kind of the same vision about dance music, and I'm just glad that we are organized and we're ready to take over the world.
Awesome. And was that something that you came together, or were you invited to be a part of that, or how did your involvement with that come about?
So I was invited to Pro Tech by Mickey, actually. So I did three remixes for Mickey and Sandra Collins, and Mickey just kind of hit me up one day and said like, "Hey, we're putting this thing together. Like, you know, you want to be a part of it?" And I was very excited about it, and I said yes. uh,
Awesome. Um, Question here. What's your favorite city to play in? If you could go and play there or resident there, you're in Austin, Texas, but is there a city that you have that just resonates with you saying, I love playing here? Where would that be?
oh man, good question. You know, I haven't really played in that many cities, but I mean, obviously, like Tallinn, Estonia has a very, you know, like an emotional connection to me. So I always like to play in my hometown. Um, it's got to be Tallinn.
Yeah, it's always good coming back. I mean, we're expanding operations now. Like I said, I grew up here in Seattle, been here my whole life, and I'm super excited to start working with my business associate Jay down in Phoenix, Arizona. It's kind of an interesting hub there because it puts us a hop, skip, and a jump to Vegas. It puts us a hop, skip, and a jump to LA and San Diego. We just launched a new division of our company down there, which is pretty awesome. And he works in the industry as a lighting designer and audio and lighting design, and works with a number of nightclubs and different shows. So I'm going to be spending a little bit of my time in the Southwest, not in the Midwest. But coming up, question I ask, and you'll see where I'm leading with this. Your thoughts on South by Southwest? Do you go to South by Southwest or partake in South by Southwest at all?
I have definitely partaken in South by South. It's yeah, it's like, you know, it has its good sides, it has its bad sides. So you just kind of have to forget about driving downtown the week that it's happening. But you know, there's always like really cool events. So you know, if you move to Austin, you should know that we have big events like South by Southwest and ACL and stuff like that. And you know, don't whine about it if you move here, and just take you know, most advantage of it as possible. So I personally like it. You know.
And if you had to choose between Winter Music Conference or ADE, which one would you choose if you could only go to one, and why?
Oh man, I really like Amsterdam. So maybe 80, but at the same time, the weather in Miami during that time of the year is great when Winter Music Conference is going on. So, but I think as far as like lineups go, I think I would choose 80.
Hmm. We're actually going to be at ADE, my first time ever going to one Europe, two ADE, and we're super excited with the partnerships that we're forming. I can't announce anything about them yet, but I've been told by everyone in the industry that if you're going to go and you're in business, you go to ADE, and you're going to meet so many people there and have such a great time because it's business during the day and then parties at night. 400,000 people, 7 days. It's going to be a trip. It's going to be some fun
You're
stuff.
gonna love
Yeah,
it.
I think yeah, and then hopefully, if things are going to go well, they should go well for us. We will be going to Winter Music Conference, South by Southwest, and IMS as well, for the foreseeable future, which would just be awesome to be touring around and being in these iconic places, with these big music festivals with all the artists that come in from around the world. I've obviously never been to Ibiza, I should say. I always say it Ibiza, I Americanize it. But what's been the craziest thing that's happened to you over the course of this summer, this year? Any big stuff that's really like, wow, I can't believe that happened?
This summer, let's see here. I just got back from Estonia um, a week ago, and I was there for a month, and somehow I happened to catch COVID for the first time on the first week there. So
Oh
that was
no.
pretty unexpected. But I it literally happened a couple of days before I recorded the video for y'all. So everything, that was my kind of main goal, to get that over with, and then enjoy the rest of the trip. So that was pretty wild.
What was that for? Connect the Dots, or what was the video for?
For you guys.
Oh, the exclusive mix set. I'm so,
Exactly.
you said video, and I thought it might have been a video for a track, and I usually will pick up and find that, and I'm like, oh, okay, yes, because we do have an exclusive mix, and Darla definitely was hit me up, was like, did you get that downloaded? I go, yes, we got it downloaded. Dope. I can't wait to get it out there for our DJ Sessions fans. A couple last questions here. Is there a certain age at which you would ever stop DJing?
Oh man, I don't know, 90 maybe. Sure.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny because one of my questions I have, and I referenced this, and it was just his birthday last week, a week and a half ago. Carl Cox just turned 60 years old,
Uh-huh.
and he's out there rocking it. I actually saw a list of all these DJs. You go Sasha, Paul Oakenfold, all these DJs, and they're getting into their 50s now,
Yeah.
and the question is has there or is there a retirement age for DJs when they should maybe say, you know what, I'm too old, I'm going to pass the torch, or I'm going to start nurturing, or I'm going to start producing more, or I'm going to create a school or a foundation, and go that route. But yeah, I guess I guarantee you those guys are probably going to be out there doing it until they're 90 or maybe
Yeah, I
older.
mean, as long as you can hear and you can stand up behind the decks, and you still like the music, why not?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, is there anything else you want to let our DJ Sessions fans know about before we let you go?
Yeah, just check me out on Facebook, Instagram. If you have any kind of questions for me about anything, hit me up. I check my messenger all the time, and yeah, hope to see you on the dance floor somewhere.
Awesome. And we're going to be definitely getting that exclusive mix out here to our DJ Sessions fans as well. One last thing I did forget to ask you about, though, was have you ever DJ'd in VR yet?
I have not.
You got it. If you want a chance, you got it some time, go to our website, check out our VR nightclubs. I'm telling everyone, if you're not having the conversation and doing something with branding yourself, and you're an artist and you're not having the conversation of doing something in VR, your competition is going to have something in VR. And those young kids nowadays, I mean, TikTok's still like a new platform to me. I get it. I laugh my ass off when I watch TikToks, but making TikToks, that's a whole nother ballgame. And I feel that I'm kind of like the older social media. I'm still on Facebook, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're a social media boomer." Like, oh, okay, cool. Like, all right, cool. But usually, it's people that used to say I don't need social media or I don't need a website. You kind of see the people that did have the website, they had the online presence, they got the social following out there, and VR is just that new extension of where you can literally have a virtual environment, and you can do this from a desktop computer. But once you put the Oculus on, or you put your HTC or whatever goggles you're going to use, and you get into that experience, I mean, I've seen some really cool stuff in VR. Um, that we do. And again, we have our 2 nightclubs that we're getting ready. We've soft launched them, but we haven't grand opened them yet. But we'll definitely be getting your mix in rotation in there along with this interview. And I think it's something that something you should look into.
Awesome.
Maybe come do a set sometime there, or a meet and greet or whatever. But we dropped your Instagram. I'm going to drop that Instagram one more time. Best place to go to find out about Kaspar, right there on his Instagram. And I want to say thank you for coming on the DJ sessions. It was a pleasure having you. We'll be following up with you in the near future because we always love to have people come back on the show, especially because you got some new releases coming out. We got to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll touch base with everyone every 6 months, and it'd be great to have you on the show again.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Kaspar. On that note, don't forget to go to our website, thedjsessions.com. Find us on TikTok, find us on Instagram, find us on Twitch, find us on Twitter, find us on Meta. We're out there. Thedjsessions.com. I'm your host, Darren. That's Kaspar Tasane. I hope I got that right again. Coming to you from Austin, Texas. I'm coming to you from the virtual studios in Seattle, Washington. And remember, on the DJ sessions, the music never stops.